Welcome, good evening to the... Okay, everything looks like good tonight. We're just getting everything set up. But anyway, this is going to be the highlight of the presidential debate. For those of you that know, I was just recently interviewed on ABC radio, local radio, Cincinnati, Cleveland, here in Chillicothe. And honestly, so many people have no idea, all the things that had occurred that evening. And one of the things I wanted to start with is I wanted to ask Miranda, because she's actually here. I was able to overhear the conversations, and what were some things that were not put in the article that was written, because there's an article written and then there's two sound bites. I'm actually in the second piece of the sound bite, and what I'm going to share with you is I'm going to show you the actual text of what I said. And while I'm getting this ready, Miranda, do you remember anything that stood out to you, like from an undecided or anyone on either side? We realized after the event, everybody's fact checking everything. Did this true? Is this not true? Is this true? Is this not true? So now that we have things going on, we have people that have found out what has happened, what hasn't happened. What do you think? What honestly do you think about it?
Well, the debate itself. That's what I'll just talk about the debate itself.
Yeah.
I felt like not even halfway through the debate, Romney was winning the debate. The fact that the most the thing that stuck out to me was when Romney was addressing Obama. Obama never looked at Romney. Obama was busy looking down, looking at something else. And to me, that was disrespectful.
So you think that's disrespectful?
Okay. It's disrespectful when somebody is speaking to you and you're not looking at them. So it shows disrespect. On top of that, Romney was addressing Obama and asking him kind of a question. And what did Obama do? Obama's response to it was, "Jim, Lear, can we move on to another topic?" Romney never said tried to avoid, anything like that. He was straight to the point. He answered Obama's questions. When Obama, accused him of things, he responded right away. He didn't say, "Jim, can we move on to another topic?" So I kind of felt like Obama just wasn't prepared.
Well, that was one of the things I realized, that he did not seem completely prepared.
And he stuttered. He wasn't to the point with his words. He kind of stumbled on himself. He didn't know what to say. I mean, he did have some good points. I'll give him that. He had some good points at times.
Okay.
But all in all, Romney beat him.
Well, we look back at the fact-checking that occurred that evening, and you find out later on neither one of them had everything to be honest.
No, they didn't.
And as a communication guy, I just stuttered in my speech, and I did that on purpose. That's something, there's basic things you're taught not to do. And I don't see how, when you are a politician, that you can't go from not stuttering, because you're getting emotionally charged. It's almost like going to court.
Yeah.
You're told to not look at the other person. You're not supposed to look at the other person, because if you look at the other person,
but we're not in a court hearing.
But that's the way they're trained.
They were supposed to be talking to each other at times, and Obama would not look at Mitt Romney.
And Romney didn't really look at him either, though.
Yes, he did.
Well, he did at times.
Yes, he did. Right. When Obama was talking to him, Mitt focused on him.
Yeah.
And I do have to, but I was taught when somebody speaks to you, you pay attention to them. Yeah. You don't look down, you don't look away, and you get mad at me when I do that. I do that, and I say, "Well, I'm listening to you," but you're like, "Well, you're not looking at me," and I can't tell if you're really paying attention.
I see.
You understand what I mean? It's The other thing, what is affecting us, me personally, is the cuts that Obama has made to Medicare. Billions of dollars taken from Medicare. And that, Jeremy, is something that is going to affect us and my family. My grandparents are on Medicare. I am on Medicare to pay for my medications, all the tests that need to be run to take care of me as I fight this disease. And we are already paying exuberant amounts in copays for some of these medications. And it's ridiculous. It's scary knowing he has taken money out of Medicare, and him saying that to pay for Obamacare. Well, what about, I'm already having to pay $400 a month for one medication.
Yeah.
Okay, you're taking money out of Medicare. Clearly, I'm going to have to pay more. Somebody's got to pay more to make up those billions of dollars. And I'm already paying $400 a month, being expected to pay $400 a month for one medication. I mean, that worries me. And that worries you because you have to pay that, Jeremy. You have to help pay that. And of course the other thing is jobs.
Yeah, and jobs,
because
jobs have everything to do with how this whole government's supposed to work. And honestly, the only jobs the government creates is government jobs.
Mm-hmm.
They don't create private citizen jobs.
No, the citizens make the private citizen jobs.
Citizens make other citizens' jobs.
And if citizens are being taxed and taxed and taxed and taxed and not given and being bled dry by the government, they're not going to be able to create those jobs. And that's, we worry about that because you have less than a year before you're out of college, and is there going to be a job for you? I mean, that's what is worrying us, because now, when you get out of college, you have to pay back student loans. You have to, you need a job to survive, plus pay off the debt that you're in for your degrees. And I mean, luckily, as well as I do, that's a lot less debt than what an average person will have to pay back, because you did have your GI Bill, and it does cover majority of your college degrees.
Yeah.
And also your grants, which are you don't have to pay back either.
No, I don't have to pay those back.
But I mean, for an average person that goes to college, they don't have the GI Bill.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm still gonna have $20,000 or $30,000. It looks like in debt, but most people that go 4 or 5 years, they have 50 and 60
up to $100,000
in debt. $100,000, and I'm, so I do have.
So it is a concern. I mean, we worry. I mean, we feel for college students today, not knowing if there's going to be a job out there for them.
Yeah, and that's one of the whole situations of the way it works and doesn't work and everything. So we'll just have to see the direction it's going to go.
So those are the issues that are affecting us. And that we have the most concern over. And clearly, if Obama's taking billions of dollars out of Medicare, we're not supporting him.
Now, this actually intimidated, and I'm going to figure, I didn't write down how many pages this is. I took notes for the whole debate, and this
about
is
every topic.
Every topic. I mean, I have notes on everything that was said. You would have thought I was some kind of whatever, but outside of getting into a fact check of what was being said, you got 2 minutes to try and give an answer.
Yeah, and that's really hard.
I've never won a date with a girl in 2 minutes of conversation.
There you go.
But then again, I'm told that the first 15 minutes, and this is my old restaurant boss, Casa Ole boss, that helped me when I went to South Africa. She told me the first 15 minutes, or actually, she said, if you're not dressed right, because I was the host, we had fake flowers. We had to spray them down to make them look wet. We had to clean the floor. We had to spray it with some kind of like Febreze thing. We had the certain kind of Mexican music on. We had to have the tables a certain way, the waitress and everything and whatnot and everything. And she said the way that you greet, the way things happen will decide if they're going to want to come back. And then how the waitresses work, how long the food takes. It's kind of the same with politics.
Politicians, they're there to serve you.
They're there to serve you, but they're also there to market themselves.
Yes. So you keep coming back
And
keep voting.
I'm quite wondering what's going to happen in the future. I know there's some people who tell me, "Oh, I would love it if they only had the facts," where they say, "Well, here's what your actually proposal plan is. Here's your 5-point plan. Can you get a little more in depth on this?" Or President Obama, here's your record of fill in the blank. Can you explain what you're going to do that you
foreign policy?
Foreign policy.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about Libya? I mean, of course they're not going to be able to say what you're going to do about Libya. That's classified. But I can see in the future as social media continues to grow, what's going to happen possibly is a paradigm shift across the political realm where you're going to have the actual facts. They'll have their websites up on the screen behind them and say, "Here's what you really have."
We need to have that now. We've needed to have that from day one. I mean, instead of doing smear ads, do fact campaign ads.
Yeah.
Instead of bashing the other person, say, "Here's what I'm going to do. Here's what they did."
Here's the weird thing about this, and apparently, depending on who you're looking at, that's what wins votes.
The other thing too, in the debate, Obama kept referencing Bill Clinton, saying, "Well, we need to do what Bill Clinton did." I thought, then why don't we just re-elect Bill Clinton?
Yeah, and
I felt like Obama had really just couldn't stand on his own. He kept having to lean on Bill Clinton this, Bill Clinton that.
What's so strange, and I know the behind-the-scenes stuff because the stuff that I've been involved with the political realm, what's happened is the old Clinton administration team of those that led him into the debates, those that worked on his campaign, they have split. Yeah. We already know the Democrat Party is split. Specifically, what's split is you have a split doctrine of Bill Clinton. In fact, here in Chillicothe, someone that used to work for Bill Clinton was involved with the political campaign for a Republican. It's at the national level, too. The Republican and Democrat Party is not the same. There's a line, everyone here in Chillicothe knows, there's this line known as the center, which is considered independents.
Yes.
And then there's moderates, Republicans, which are called libertarians, and then like Tea Party, and then conservative, and then Christian or whatever, however they want to put it. Over here, it's like moderate Democrats, progressive, socialist, communist, Marxist, so on and so forth. And the issue is there's not like a Democrat version. Technically, some people call the green, some say others. There's not technically in the mainstream today. What's the Democrat equivalent to a libertarian? Because apparently a libertarian is now being considered moderate Republican through the independent all the way through moderate Democrat now. And that's how much the range is. Well, Clinton was considered a moderate. So that's what we're having at this election is moderate versus moderate. And Obama was a farther left than a moderate.
He is not a moderate.
But now this election, he's trying to come over more into the center. So they have all these people behind the scenes trying to fix
what he's already done, he's kind of ruined himself to be a moderate. Nobody's going to believe that. I'm sorry. I don't believe that he's a moderate. I don't believe that he keeps saying, like I said, he kept saying, we need to do what Bill Clinton did. Well, if that's so, then why don't we just hire Bill Clinton back and get rid of you?
I don't know about that.
If Bill Clinton was so great, let's just hire him back.
Well,
and get rid of Obama. And because it was seriously, Obama kept saying, well, I want to do what this person's already done. Obama didn't have one single original plan in his mind. He was like, well, I'm going to go back and do what this person did. Romney had his own original plans.
Yeah.
And Obama even said, well, I wanted to take Obamacare and patent it after what Romney did in Massachusetts. It was Massachusetts, right? Am I right?
Yeah, Romney's in Massachusetts.
Okay.
That's right. And completely right.
And the fact that, Obamacare isn't even his original idea. It was Mitt Romney, with just the state. It wasn't like a federal government Mitt Romney thing. Mitt Romney don't want the federal government running health care. He wants individual states to run their own health care. And I think that's a good plan. Because smaller government.
Yeah, and honestly,
we don't need big government. Big government never ever works. Look at Russia. Look at China. Look at North Korea. Look at Cuba. It doesn't work. Okay, it doesn't work.
And for healthcare though, if you're a company that's across state lines, then you could do company-wide stuff at a federal level. Like for instance,
the reason that we have such a healthcare crisis is not because people don't want healthcare. It's because these stupid healthcare companies are abusing their power. Yeah. We need to write up legislation, put a cap on how much cap and trade, how much they can, screw people over and hold them accountable. Because when it comes to healthcare, that is people's lives. It is life or death. What those healthcare companies choose to do can either kill somebody or let them live.
Well, and here's what I was trying to get at before.
I'm sorry,
you went through that. The federal level, what healthcare could be done is, making certain these insurance companies can't rip people off. I get that. That could be federal level.
Regulations. Amit was talking about regulations.
Regulations. I get some of that stuff. There needs to be some regulations to make certain people are safe and being taken care of. But each state has different kinds of needs on different kinds of people. And it would have to be between the federal, the state, and these companies. Yep. And if it doesn't work, like here in Chillicothe, I have to say this.
We are not against all America getting health care.
Yeah, we're not.
But we are against the government running it and controlling what you can and cannot do to get help. Yeah. And that's what's scary. That's what scares us. We've seen, we've had people tell us, I live in this country and we have government-run health care, and I was put on a waiting list for over a year for a surgery. A surgery here in America that you could have done in a few weeks. This person was put on a waiting list for over a year to have a surgery done because they weren't important enough.
And that's the thing right now, and there's multiple things going on with this healthcare. First of all, let me use the example of a small county in southern Ohio.
There you go.
A small county in southern Ohio is run by one conglomerate monopolized healthcare provider.
It's 3 counties now.
Well, I'm talking about one county right now. Okay. Let's talk about one county. The town has about 20,000 people, and you have only one major healthcare provider. You go to a state or federal government care, that's all those people can get. So there needs to be something else done. There needs to be not necessarily a stimulus. There needs to be people that want to get into the medical field and create a new healthcare provider. Say, for instance, MirandaHealthcare.com, Jeremy Caverly Healthcare.com. We have doctors, we have hospitals and urgent cares. She has hospitals and doctors and urgent cares. And we're all in the same town. What does that do? That does competition. What does that do? It brings the prices down.
And also brings jobs.
It brings jobs. Do you realize I've done research on finding out what happens when you have a town anywhere in the United States and you bring in a second health care provider. You bring in construction. You bring in carpentry. Drywall, electricians, and sometimes they come an hour or two away, but you bring people currently in the state. Normally
give them a job.
They get a job, they get a contract. You get, eventually when the building's built, then you have electricians still working there. You still have science people. You still have classes. All across the board, you will have all of the major trades of what you need for your job. You'll have people that need to buy paper, so they need to get something from a paper mill. You're going to need people to do computer work. You're going to need people to do clerical work. You're going to need people to be health aides, nurses, doctors, lawyers, the whole conglomerate. And what happens when you bring in high clientele people like that? Here's the next step. It brings in other big businesses with them. It brings in laboratories. It brings in larger, because like people want to wear shirts like these.
And on top of that,
it brings in larger clothing companies.
And on top of that,
all sorts of
universities want to start partnering with you.
Yes. For instance, in Ohio, there are like 5 to 10 big major universities.
Top for the whole country.
Some of them top of the whole country. There's 4 I'm going to talk about. We have SOMC, which is in Portsmouth. Ohio State in Columbus. Then we have Adena here. And what's the fourth one? I know there's a fourth one.
What are you talking about? Mayo Clinic?
It's the one that's in Cleveland. The Cleveland one.
Cleveland.
Say, for instance, all four of these big partners, which are already further south than I am in Portsmouth and elsewhere, what if they established right here in Chillicothe, Ohio, had their own practice right here? Guess what else can happen? If you have a second hospital in your area, it normally brings another university to your area. Now, we have billboards on my road for Shawnee State in Portsmouth, which is over an hour away. Ohio State has already bypassed us and went down to Piketon and has Little Branch. Imagine if Ohio State, Shawnee, and even maybe Miami University and others brought a branch campus here along with our Chillicothe branch campus, along with our Damar. That brings jobs. But here's the other kicker. Right now, currently where we're at, we don't have jobs for college graduates across everyone that's graduating. When they graduate,
in my
everyone
opinion,
doesn't have a
there's
job
no
right
jobs
now.
at all for people who graduate from the
In
college.
this area,
program.
they've done a background research study saying that most of the people in southern Ohio have vocational job growth possibilities. So, for instance, I graduate, I have to leave.
Yep.
Unless I get involved in politics or change my degree and
Or
get
you
involved.
just want to work a part.
Or I want to work a part-time job. If I want to go play video games at GameStop all day or something like that. Yeah, that happens. So there's multiple things that have to happen.
Basically, minimum wage jobs are what are around here.
Now I want to talk about unemployment. Now, I've done this before. We had a big show. I showed you the government website. This is a few years ago. We did it at the old house that we were living in. I want to just briefly talk to you about this. It's about communications. I am a communications major. And when you read this, unemployment drops to 7.8%. The one word that is missing out of this is benefits. What benefits? State and government benefits connected to insurance that is paid by companies. So then between the companies and our government can pay people a portion of their wages when they were employed if they got laid off. That number is only for those people. Well, I don't know. I can't remember what the current list is. I don't think it's 99 weeks anymore. Whatever the number is, and check this out. Whatever the number is for unemployment, think about this. What is the number for unemployment? This is 7.8. This number only adds up who is getting unemployment benefits. You know, they go to a website and they got to apply for jobs 2 times a week. And there's 4 tiers. And when they go through each of the tiers, because I've been through it. I went through all 99 weeks. I know what it looks like. I can't legally log in and show you what that looks like because I don't have...
And it is stressful.
It's stressful because they do have audits where they can check backgrounds and all that. When all crap broke loose in 2008, they didn't have enough people to check everybody. Everybody doesn't get checked. It's by random selection. I can still get checked. I think that's how it works. But don't quote me on that part. But anyway, these numbers that you see are just on that government part. Now here's the problem. When I ran out of my unemployment benefits, I was still out of work. In fact, I was preparing to go to college.
But you weren't counted anymore.
But I was not counted anymore.
Yeah, they said, well,
so
all these people
2
must have
things
jobs.
are happening. When the unemployment benefit runs out, that person's not counted anymore.
No.
If that person goes and gets a job, they're not counted anymore. So how do we know who has a job and who hasn't? Well, what you have to do, and this is something I'm going to work on, it's going to take a while, I'm going to have to look at the current people on unemployment, the current people that got jobs, add up the amount of jobs, and do a subtraction difference between the two.
Also
and
look
guess what? They don't line up.
And also look at how many people just applied for welfare.
Yes.
When this number dropped, we need to go see how many people applied for welfare in the past few days.
And that's the other thing.
And
you
food
have to
stamps and other government assistance.
What we have to look at, and this is a number that you can find out, and it takes a while. You have to look at the.
Because I guarantee not that many people found a job in 2 days.
Then you have to look at food stamps, and I actually can pull it up here because they have it. They have a August release for June. They don't have the one for September yet, and they won't have it till probably later this week. But why I'm trying to get this thing loaded, and I'm trying to see if this is the right one that I need or not need. No, that's not the one I want. I'm wanting to find the number percentage of August release. They only got it from June. Do you know why they have because I'm looking. Check this out. It's right here. I'll show it to you. This is the government's USDA right here .gov, and this is stats and statistics of everything. And I could probably pull it off somewhere within one of these links, nutrition, whatever. But what you got to look at is how many people applied. How many people applied for SNAP and everything? And we looked at the number. We got like 47
million.
47 million people are on food stamps. Now, here's the other thing. You can't just say alone, well, if they're on food stamps, they don't have a job. Because that's a lie.
Yeah.
If you don't make enough money to make that $10,000 a year, you can get on food stamps. So people that go around and tell me, because I was on food stamps till I was 18. I got on unemployment when I got out of the military. I did the 99 weeks later on. I did food stamps before I went to school or right after?
It was during.
It was like right during when I started school.
And we only we didn't even qualify.
We didn't qualify because we owned 2 vehicles and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, that went away. So I understand how this works. I've been there.
Yeah.
You have to look at people that make above the $10,000 a year. And there's multiple places. And I'm looking at this stuff. And when you see that 7.8, everything I just talked to you about, if they have a job, are they unemployed, did they apply for welfare, the list goes on and on. If those, these 4 big pieces don't line up, and of course you don't know if, John Doe is on this, and this. You don't have access to that. The government has access to
all I'm
that.
saying is it's getting awful close to election. It's a month from today. And, and yesterday they came out with these numbers. They're trying to make Obama look like he's the savior again. Like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. It's a miracle. Unemployment went down from 8 point whatever to 7.8 in just 2 days. It's a miracle. Everybody, thousands of people just got a job.
Yeah. So here it is.
2 days. Everybody signed up for a job in 2 days.
I mean, I'm looking at one in California. They got 881,000 people on unemployment, and I look at other different numbers. I'm looking at the bigger picture, and I don't want to say anything to scare people, but
these numbers are clearly being jacked.
The numbers aren't being jacked. The numbers aren't being.
They're not being.
They're just showing you who is actually just on unemployment benefits. That's
I don't
all
believe
it
that.
Is. That's all that is.
I'm sorry. Even the article said somebody's tampering with these numbers. Well, somebody's making it up.
No, what they mean is if you just use the language of unemployment, that only 7.8 Americans are on unemployment, that is a lie because it's all. If you say unemployment, federal, state benefits is 7.8, that is 100% truthful because you added the federal, state.
A lot of people aren't believing that.
Word, but they're not saying that in here. They just come out and say unemployment 7.8.
I'm saying people talking on the street. People are not believing these numbers.
People on the street realize what I just said, but they don't know how to necessarily articulate what I just said and explain.
Yeah.
They can see the common sense things and know, well, this guy's at a homeless shelter, this person on food stamps, this person is living with that person, and they don't have a job. How's the number lower? It's because it's only about that one concrete little fact. Your words have power. I mean, it's even in the Bible,
You and I just speak life or death.
You speak life or death. So what we're doing is we're speaking life, saying, oh yeah, the unemployment's lower, so people are going to want to vote, and people are going to want to get involved, and people are going to want to do the things they want to do.
But yet,
that is the fact. Now, here's the thing. Throughout all of our history, the statistics that I'm telling you has not existed. So this issue, yet again, as I talked about to many people, is a bipartisan issue.
Yes.
Republicans and Democrats have used these statistics because it is about federal and state money. So 7.8, federal, state, government, our tax money, is not going to over 8%. That's true. But we still have a group of people that aren't on benefits.
But government assistance probably is going to all those people, a lot of people who just went off unemployment.
Yeah, because
they went apply for other government assistance.
114,000 jobs is not enough to lower what it looks like. Now, I've talked about it. Depending on where you live, it could be anywhere between 8% and almost 20% of your population. If you break it down by county, by city, by state. Yeah, bake it. I'm going to bake it. So let me put this in the oven and explain this to you, okay? City, state, county, region, everything's broken up. You can be anywhere between below 7% all the way up to 20% of a certain population could have this unemployment number that I'm going to explain, which was what I just said a second ago. All these other people that aren't counted, that don't have jobs. We need to create something, and this requires probably some extra government that nobody's going to want. But if you want to have the real number, something like a census would need to be done almost yearly, if not monthly, and that's almost impossible to afford.
Yeah.
So we're honestly, at this point in the day, you're not going to really know what those real numbers are. People that stop being on unemployment aren't counted anymore.
Yeah.
So for those of you that realize that we still need jobs, we still need to do things, there's nothing. I'm not saying Obama didn't do anything. Apparently something has happened to brought that number down. I completely agree with that.
You know what's happened? We're getting into the holiday season.
Yes.
That's exactly what has happened.
And that's
people are hiring again because we're going into the holidays.
And this is the first year since I've been unemployed that they said this is going to be the most amount of seasonal / part-time workers that will probably stay on as a job after the holidays. Those that know me last year, I worked at GameStop. This year, I got 4 classes. I don't have time to do class when I'm in school 5 days a week and working on.
You don't have time to do class when you're in class 5 days a week.
Yeah, I don't have time. That's how busy I am. I don't even have time for class when I'm going to class 5 days a week. You don't know what you're saying. I don't know which way I'm coming or going sometimes. I'm so busy is what I'm trying to mean. This is I'm not used to taking 4 classes at a time. The reason why it's stressful is I'm taking junior and senior courses at the same time. So I got a big, massive 23-page project research thing I'm doing, and I'm writing, some interviews and all sorts of stuff. So I'm quite wrapped around all this, and that's why I say these numbers can be true, but then quite. We got to ask questions. What's really going on now? For those of you, this is a sensitive subject, and it's one that has to be brought up. I have friends that are no longer involved in the psychiatric realm. They no longer want to get updated on their licenses because, they're Christians. And for those of you that have watched how America has changed and see how what we define as everyday normal, that definition keeps changing. For instance, the age of sexual consent has been lowered. Like here in Ohio, I can legally have sex, even though I'm 32, with a 16-year-old, even though I think that is immoral. You shouldn't be having sex with 16-year-old girls. That doesn't make sense to me. But you can legally do it. Or of the abortion issue. Well, this issue is an issue about what if you are a young person who is trying to decide if you are gay, straight, bi, transgender, asexual, whatever. In California, the government has signed a law to ban, that means you can't have it at all, what they call orientation therapy, which is supposed to be counseling for you to make decisions on the way your life wants to be. A lot of Christian organizations have been involved in it. Some of them have been exposed that they were secretly closet homosexuals, so it's really destroyed the whole integrity of the system. That's the excuse of why California doesn't want to do it anymore. So yeah, 16 is the legal age of consent in Ohio, where in other states it's 18 or 17. Some places it's even 14. And those are some of the questions. So I'm looking at this. This is Democratic government Jerry Brown signs into law Saturday a bill that would ban reparative therapy for minors. That means under the age of 18. So as we continually change and move down this path of what we have, you have to question and ask yourselves, what's really going on today?
Why are they scared
Why
to allow this therapy?
Why is it banned when the individual going to counseling is getting permission from their parents, and it's the kid themselves that gets to make a decision on
they want to be straight, gay, or whatever?
Now, if it's a Christian one, because this was a secular thing too. They're banning the secular and the Christian version of it. The Christian version of it is you want to go in and learn how to deal with the temptation of wanting to sleep with the same sex or whatever it is you're wanting to do that goes against the biblical principles. So now, Christians who are struggling with the homosexual temptation sin, that's what it is a temptation to do stuff. And I know many people that are friends and relatives and others that are in open relationships with the same sex, bisexual, asexual, and all sorts of other stuff I've heard. They can't get help in California anymore, and that's unfortunate. Hopefully they'll still be able to do it across the lines. Hopefully they'll still be able to find other ways to be able to communicate, other ways to be able to
express. Do you also feel like
message.
They're trying to, by banning this therapy, saying this entire situation is no longer a psychological or a psychiatric problem?
Well, that's one of the things that
they're just trying to shove it under the rug, saying, we don't need to deal with this stuff anymore. People should just deal with it on their own. They're basically saying there is not a problem in people's minds anymore, that this just doesn't exist.
Well, what happened before, and this is the part where the government was able to do this.
Because you remember back in the day, if people were homosexual, they were considered mentally mental problems.
And that was the thing. They considered, back in the day, and I don't necessarily agree with that one, because I don't think sleeping with someone of your same gender is a mental illness. I think it's a sin problem. There's a difference.
But do you see what I mean by?
Because
they're always talking about the psychiatric.
Because of the terminology, because there were some Christians that were so, I don't know if they were struggling with homosexuality themselves. Some of them were, because we found out through history a lot of them are. The issue that is facing today is that if you start putting all these things on the list and all this other stuff, everything continually grows and grows and grows and grows and grows. And people like in Texas, growing up in Texas, what would happen is people will be shunned and they'd be kicked out of their homes, or back in the day when they had all the controversial electric shock therapies and everything. There were things done to these kids and adults that wanted to stop being gay that was completely evil.
Mm-hmm. But do you think it's good that I brought that up about? Do you feel like we've moved on from this being a psychiatric mental problem, and that's why they're trying to ban to say we shouldn't do therapy for these people anymore? Yeah. Even though there are people in the next article, you'll see that there are people who do want to get help.
Yeah, and this is what I'm so worried about is I have friends on my Facebook right now who are homosexual, and some of them aren't, some are Wiccan, some are all sorts of stuff, but they still stay on my page because I just asked them, to repent of their sins and become a Christian. I've said it like maybe once. They see all the stuff I post. I show them there's an alternative life, and they said, well, thank you for showing me an alternative life. And that's the end of the argument. The problem is some people are trying to force the issue, and the reason why the homosexual community is trying to force the issue because they've been told to shut up all the time. Because it's a scary thing. I understand it. If you're a man in the military and you're taking a shower with one of those heads and there's 5 little showers, you're kind of concerned the man next to you is a homosexual. Is he going to get an erection and try and rape you? I've heard people say that's why they don't want to have it. I get have same shower abilities, but do we really need to split?
Are you talking about being the openly gay thing in the military?
Yeah, that's an example I want to bring up because I was in the military and people talked about that. But as a Christian, you shouldn't be afraid of people. You shouldn't be afraid of what they're going to do. I mean, of course, you need to protect yourself and make sure that everything's right, and you live the life. But if you really want to lead a homosexual or a Wiccan or a transvestite, a she-male, whatever, to Christ, you got to stop being afraid of them.
Yeah.
You got to stop being mad
at them.
They're just people. They are no different than you and I they may have a different sin than you and I.
That's what I was saying.
But that's the deal. It's a different sin than you and I.
It's not a different sin. Sin is sin.
That's what I'm getting to.
Their sin is no different than
But in our
sin.
human carnal minds, check this out. We love to, as I got written on my piece of paper here, I got, debate, Obama, jobs. We love to categorize all this stuff. Let me draw a chart real quick that you can see. And I'm going to do this while I'm talking. We love to put sins, and we love to break them down into simple categories. And I'm writing this down on paper to where it makes sense. And I'm going to tell you what this looks like. And, well, I'm having to write, so I can't look at the camera. So just give me a minute.
No, I mean, you're shaking the camera.
I feel that. Here's the thing. Here we go. We got sin. And sin, according to the way the God looks like when us humans look at it, we go A, B, C. And then off to the side of A, B, C, we're going to do this punishment, and this punishment, and this punishment. Now, of course, when you break a crime, you break the law, and you commit a crime, and the sheriff or the police get a hold of you, very simple. What happens is, as you have this, you'll have this category. It's like, well, if he did this wrong, this happens. If he did this wrong, this happens. If you did this wrong, this happens. Now, in God's eyes, God says sin is equal. Sin is equal. And that's why I wrote sin is equal down here. Okay? And you can draw this out yourselves. You write the word sin, 3 lines, A, B, and C. And then draw a P, and a P. Because these are the punishments. And we all each have these different kinds of punishments. But then God connects them all. And God says sin equals death. Okay? Sin equals death in God's eyes, right? So what happened? He brings Jesus. I mean, first he used Moses, and he, used all sorts of different people throughout the Old Testament. David, Daniel, Jeremiah, Elijah, Elisha. Move on to the New Testament. Then God wasn't even done. He didn't even stop and say, well, I need Jesus. He's like, God even realized, well, Jesus, and this is going to be controversial. I have to explain what I'm going to say. Jesus was not enough to lead the people in Israel back to him. And he realized that some humans didn't get it. So what did God do when he brought Jesus? Jesus had the installation in his brain that I need to find 12 people. 12 people, however you read this right, that can represent not only the tribes of Judah, because there's 12 tribes of Judah and there's 12 disciples. I learned this in a long time ago when I was a kid. I learned this in Vacation Bible School. We had a little chart. Actually, we did hopscotch to this.
Oh, that's cool.
We had all the disciples' names out, and we also did some charts and stuff like that. But here, I can draw this up for you. So the next step, you have like Jesus, right? And God knew that humans weren't going to just believe just one man about his testimony. So he creates 12 disciples, right? And that's also the 12 tribes of Judah. Do you realize what I'm about to say? Jesus Christ is the first model for social media. He's the reason why I'm analytically and on one side of my brain, and then on the other side of my brain, I'm able to think articulately and all that stuff. You know how a man and a woman's brain separated. Well, I was raised by my mother and my grandmother, so I don't know if that's how that worked. Anyway, here it is. I'm not writing clearly. You got Jesus. God realized he needed to send his son to not only sacrifice his life, and so that this would be the ultimate sacrifice, the white lamb. He also realized he had to have somebody to spread the message on after he paid the atonement for sin. So he had 12 individual people that also could represent the 12 tribes of Judah. That's one possible solution. but it also represents 12 different types of people as well. And then what happens? You go into the world and spread the gospel. That's how this whole thing about Jesus Christ is supposed to work. This is how this is supposed to get into. So when you run into someone that's homosexual and you're not a homosexual, first you got to start praying for them, but you got to know how to pray. You got to know how to act. And for instance, here's a story that I don't completely agree on everything, because what if I told you a student actually sued a gay student,
a
college student who claims he once had a same-sex attraction, became a heterosexual after conversion therapy. He's filing a lawsuit against California saying, hey, it worked for me. This should be allowed.
Yeah, don't
pass
this law.
It's like, don't pass this law, because it doesn't give people 100% an opportunity to have a choice. Just think about it. If you are honestly trying to make a decision, if you're wanting to be a Christian or not being a Christian, I know many people I've talked to, many people I've talked to, who tell me, oh yeah, Jeremy, I'm going to look at the facts. Let's talk about politics. What do Democrats like to do the most? They like to fact check everything. Well, if you take away the opportunity for someone to fact check themselves, if they're homosexual or not, then you are putting them in bondage to, well, that's just the way you are, and you got to wait till you're 18 to be able to do something, and that's not fair.
It could also be said for somebody who is seeking therapy to stop being a pedophile.
Yeah. And when I was at the shelters and I was homeless and I was working with people, I met pedophiles, I met murderers, I met rapists, I met she-males, I met transvestites, I met people that wanted to sleep with animals, I mean, you name it.
So, I mean,
I've met them.
So, there is therapy for people who are pedophiles. There is that. But it would be the same thing as taking that away and say, well, a pedophile is just a pedophile. That's all they're ever going to be. That's their mindset. That's who they're attracted to. And that's a scary thought.
That is a scary thought.
That the government is going to be able to pass these laws to say, well, you're just stuck the way you are, and that's just how you are. You're going to desire to have sex with children for the rest of your life.
Because I think there needs to be an opportunity, because as a Christian, what does the Bible talk about? It says, if you're not welcome in a town, get all the dust off your feet and go to another town. It doesn't say go get a megaphone and keep harassing these people.
No.
Knock on their door, say what you're going to say. They don't like it, move on. If you're in an apartment complex like we're at, you're not even supposed to knock on the door. So you got to find me out in the world. You can't come knock on my door unless I know you and invited you over. Because if the landlord and the rest of the management here, you'll get fined and get kicked off the property, and I don't want that to happen.
Or your wife will answer the door and tell you to get the heck out.
Yeah, so
I had to tell somebody to please leave the other day.
We need to learn how to communicate the message of the gospel better for this to happen. And this is going to lead to our next subject. One that Miranda is going to actually introduce. Because Miranda knows what this is like. And it's going to be very difficult for her to do it. This is why she's not on camera, because she's very scared, very upset. But let's transition from homosexuality to self-injury, otherwise known as cutting. What are other words for it? Are there other words for this nowadays? I think it's just cutting, self-injury. Miranda is a survivor of the temptation to self-cut, to self-harm. That's the word I'm looking for.
And commit suicide.
Or to want to commit suicide. In the 5th grade, I wanted to commit suicide. I tried. Someone tackled me. I had a knife in my hand. It hadn't happened since. And you're kind of wondering, well, why hadn't it happened to me since? Why is Miranda not still with us today? Why am I still with you today? Because people came in our lives to teach us something. Christ came into our hearts and the Holy Spirit to guide us, and through all these different factions, we're able to do something. And I'm gonna let Miranda, as you read this stat, this is in the University of Missouri, 60,000 teens showed that 4,000 of them reported injuring themselves, and half of them attempted suicide. So my question is, how many more of these people in this 6,000 group actually want to commit self-harm or suicide? So Miranda,
we got to remember, this is just teens.
This is just teenagers
that they interviewed. This isn't even young adults or elderly and so on.
Yeah. So this isn't. Yeah. This is not even the. This isn't even the same as what you're talking about. You're right. You're completely right on that.
This is just one small group,
Yep.
age group,
Mm-hmm.
and it's terrifying that what you said 4,000.
Yeah, it's
Out of
4,000.
60,000, 4,000 had been mutilating themselves. And how many others tried to commit suicide?
About half. Now, Miranda, will you
So
explain?
half, 30,000 of the 60,000 had thought about suicide.
Now, Miranda, will you explain? Well, I'm going to lead you into this. Miranda has told me, because I don't know what this feels like, that you get to a certain point in your life where anguish, anger, depression,
Pain,
fear,
suffering.
it could be physical pain from an illness or emotional pain.
Mm-hmm.
And all humans have this dopamine and all these chemicals in your brain. And when they reach their threshold, your body shuts down.
Mm-hmm.
And your body tries to find an outlet where, in other words, find a pain to express this. So what happens to these group of people, now you don't have to get your arms off the table or shaking everything. To these group of people is they cut themselves because that pain is actually more intense than the pain they are emotionally going through, and it makes them forget, or more specifically, it makes them not feel the emotional pain anymore because they feel the pain of the body.
Yes.
Is that how that works?
That's yeah. It is like, it almost feels good. It in a twisted, weird way. When you self-mutilate and you're cutting yourself, it is a way to release the pain, and you actually feel good. It's very strange. Like, that's what would happen to me. I would feel a release, I would feel good, and I would feel like the pain was leaving. But in reality, it wasn't leaving. It was just, I was causing myself more pain, because once I came out of that mindset, I look at my arms or my legs, and I'm like, oh dear God, what have I done to myself? This hurts. And I would start feeling the pain from the injury that I did to myself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a vicious cycle.
So now, without me explaining what I do to help you, what works to help someone? Like, first let's explain, what are the signs of someone that wants to do this? This is normally not something you can see, right?
No.
You don't normally know the people that want to do this.
No, I mean, people look at me and they would never know that. I mean, even today I struggle with that.
Okay. So, when you and others let's just talk about you. What can someone else, if you find out that person is cutting, besides picking up 911 and calling the police, or to take them to a mental location to get help, because if you know they're cutting, they need to go get immediate attention.
Yeah, because they could cut an artery.
Yeah.
They could cut themselves to the point where they could bleed out and die.
That's true. What can family and friends and acquaintances that meet people like this, what can they do to help? If you actually say, Miranda says to me, let me get on screen and say this. What if Miranda has an episode and says, Jeremy, help me. I want to cut.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to do. Let's say I don't know what to do. I know what to do, but I'm not going to say it. I'm going to let Miranda say it because it makes more sense.
The thing that helped me the most, and you've seen that firsthand through what we've gone through, is talk it out. Because nonverbal communication isn't happening when somebody's cutting.
Exactly.
They're not expressing. That's how they're expressing how they feel by doing it. You get them to talk about their emotions. You get to talk about what is going on. They're not going to cut. They're being distracted.
Yes.
And they're dealing with the pain and the agony that they're going through in their mind or their body in a different way.
Yes.
Instead of inflicting harm. And that's how we've dealt with it. Counseling. We've gone through counseling. And all of this is the base of why I have struggled in the past with the cutting and the self-mutilation is because of the disease that we didn't know I had at the time, and the abuse that I've gone through since I was a teenager at the hands of other people. The rapes, the beatings, the having my life threatened. That's traumatic, extremely traumatic events. Post-traumatic stress disorder is what it comes down to, and not just veterans have it.
Yeah, and that's
what it comes down to. Clearly, people who follow what we our lives on Facebook and everything know we are going through very traumatic things.
I'm going to pause Miranda because tonight there was an outreach in town that we were supposed to go to, but with Miranda having signs of having a heart attack and needing the echocardiogram on Monday, we're stuck at home.
Yeah.
I have to monitor her in case I need to take her to the emergency room if she has another episode of her heart doing what it was doing this week. So that's why we haven't left this weekend. I've been working on my homework too and whatnot. But I just wanted to say that for those that have watched the program, want to know what's going on. But yes, like Max says in the chat, working on community outreaches, working to help with other people. Yes, if you actually take someone who is, say, elderly in a nursing home, to someone who is at a juvenile detention center, someone who is homeless, someone who is a cutter, someone who may be a sign of behaviors or whatever, if someone steps into their life, which is one of my projects, we're working with Big Brothers, Big Sisters coming up soon, later this month. I'll talk about that later in about 2 weeks. If you take an opportunity to get in someone's life and honestly show them that you care, have that opportunity to have that dialogue, because some of these people just need to be able to vent an issue.
They want to know that someone is there for them.
Miranda, do you want to talk about talking with and working with the Salvation Army? Miranda works with the Salvation Army Latchkey program here in Chillicothe.
Yeah.
And these are some at-risk kids, meaning they come from families that were not necessarily not rich, but they came from families that were dysfunctional.
Oh, extremely.
So some of these kids,
druggy homes, everything, yes.
Which is why these kids and some of these others are having the multifaceted issues. I mean, for instance, like how Miranda is having so many problems and so much stuff going on with her health.
Yeah.
She hasn't been able to leave the home. My wife is so ill that she can't leave the home most of the time because of the corona.
I left the house one time.
She left the one time this week.
Well, and yesterday when I went to the doctor.
And yesterday going to the doctor, which is like 5-10 minutes from the house. But other than that, she's not able to get out very much because of the shot she's on causes her whole white blood cell count to be completely gone, and she is. Yeah, it's just really bad.
If I go out to a store and I catch a virus, or if I touch a shopping cart and there's a virus, somebody's got a virus on it, had been sick, and they touch that. If I touch that and I get that virus, I could be in the hospital and almost die. Because my immune system is that depleted. I have to finish. Okay, sorry.
We haven't completely publicized how bad my wife's health has deteriorated.
Because we just feel like it's just too overwhelming.
We feel like it's not only too overwhelming, we also feel it's partially private. Yes. But we also realize that if I post too much about how many times Miranda is sick, screaming in pain, how many times I'm up at all hours of the evening, how many times she's fallen down, how many doctor visits we have, I think that's too much negativity for the average person.
And we want to try to uplift people, and we don't want to focus on all this negativity. We're surrounded by all the time. So we're
setting an example, trying to help.
It's like me sitting here talking about, I have dealt with suicidal thoughts. I've tried to commit suicide 3 times in my life since I was 16 until just 3 years ago was the last time that I tried to commit suicide. And it was very traumatic. My family, it terrified my family. Thank God I'm still here. But and then other medications I've been on recently even has given me suicidal thoughts. Had to take down me to a lower dosage of that medicine to get those suicidal thoughts away. I can't go off the medication because right now it's the only thing halfway keeping me.
Yeah, and so she's not in remission yet. Yeah. She's actually getting worse because the prednisone's not working. The Humira is not working. Humira is expensive.
Well, we talked about that.
We talked about that. I even talked about that when I was interviewed. How the
without
the pros
insurance,
pack, it was like $9,500.
Yeah, it was nearly $10,000 for 1 month. For 1 month.
With her insurance, it was $400 a month. So I ended up working some stuff out. Found a foundation that would cover till December, which means we'll find out if it's going to work or not. Then we can reapply in December. Well, we're told now that if this doesn't work in the next few weeks, they're going to take her off that, possibly give her some new medication, may do some kind of...
no, but we
don't really know what they're going to do.
Well,
possible surgery, we don't know, really. We really don't know.
The next step we know in the treatment of Crohn's, after what I'm going through, would be practically chemotherapy treatments.
Yes.
And I would have to go in for chemotherapy treatments. This one type of medication, I have to go and have it intravenously done every 4 to 6 weeks. So I have to go to a hospital every 4 to 6 weeks for the rest of my life, possibly, and have the intravenously done, which takes up to 2 to 4 hours to sit, if you know about chemotherapy. And it's scary. But you can understand why somebody going through a lot of distress and suffering in their mind and their body would start having thoughts like this. Teenagers, we don't know what teenagers are going through. It's anguish.
Yeah.
They're going through something they can't. It's overwhelming them to the point they have lost hope.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to. When we lose hope, we die. And I, as an STNA, formerly worked in the nursing field, I took care of elderly people. And when they lost the will to live, they died.
Yeah.
And I've seen it firsthand. In just a few days, they were dead. And I was there, and I was consoling their family as they said goodbye to their family member.
Yeah. And it's difficult.
Hope is what keeps us alive.
And
hope
is
truly,
here,
hope and faith is truly why I am still here. If it was not for God, there's no hope without God.
Yeah.
And I don't, and that's why we have so many kids killing themselves, because they don't know the hope of Christ.
Exactly. And there's some people like Virginia. She's gone through chemo. She knows how this is. And I'm thinking about David Wilkerson and his hope and anguish stuff, and I'm thinking about the Hope Line and a bunch of other people. Yes, there needs to be a message to people about how we can bring them out of what they're in.
Yeah.
In my situations growing
up,
I couldn't leave my home. But
what are the steps to save? What are the steps to save these people's lives?
Yeah.
That we need to take.
Like when I was in my home getting beat up and going through all the stuff I did, I still had friends in school. I still had church when I could go. And when I couldn't do anything and I was put in this small little situation like this, small little opportunity where I couldn't do anything, the next thing that I know that I could do is I had the tools in my hand when if I couldn't leave my home, I couldn't do anything. If I ever became like Miranda, I would be able to open my Bible, I'd be able to put in a worship CD, I'd be able to, now, back then you couldn't get on Facebook, it didn't exist. Now there is no excuse why we shouldn't be able to ask for help. But if you get knocked down so far, you don't want to ask for help anymore. And too many people don't have the eyes to see when someone needs help. We're not going around trying to be a blessing to other people. That's what we try to do on Facebook.
And to be honest, a person who, a lot of times, a person who wants to commit suicide, sometimes they will cry out for help, and sometimes they won't, which we've seen that too. Just recently here at our apartment complex, a man took his own life. Nobody knew what he was going to do, and he went and, and he killed himself.
I mean, it is just it's so strange. There's that event tonight. There's another one coming up on the 22nd. There's another one that that you can donate online. I mean, there's just so much stuff that we're trying to post online and share these stories, because I realize I can't be in 50 million places all around the world, because at this point our ministry is international with the outreach that we're doing. But I get the messages out. I show up when I can. I do what I can. I've stepped back from... Tonight was the Casto event at Transparent Ministries.
Here in Chillicothe.
Here in Chillicothe. And I worked online, spreading the message, asking people, hey, do this, and hey, do this, so on and so forth. That was the last event for, Delivering Hope, where I met them. And they already got... the lift for the van. I think they got enough funding possibly tonight. I got to wait for the update to see possible funding for the lift for the van, and then they needed medical bills because the husband is a veteran and he's having issues because he's trying to get on disability. The wife's in the wheelchair with all the stuff going on that. So they were trying to make certain they could get enough stuff for 6 months to a year to be covered. So then that period of time it takes to really get stuff done. Then there's another new group who's working on nonprofit right now who's trying to come up with Thanksgiving, Christmas, and stuff, and create. And they've asked me to help because I have experience in doing this at a larger level. Like, what do we do? How do we do this? Who do we talk to? So I'm starting to connect different ministries and different pieces together. That's one of the things I do really well. And they're wanting to eventually create a facility, kind of like the Salvation Army, but where you just go in and get stuff for free. So if it's clothes and furniture. And then events throughout the community, and they want to not just connect it to the churches, they want to connect to everyone else. So I'm trying to connect all the different pieces together so then they can do what they need to do. I realized at some point I need to go into a pastorals meeting here in the area. I'm already working with some of the government agencies. I'm already working with some of the churches and individuals, but I need to expand my efforts to really reach this county, because if I don't, the work is not going to reach everybody. Because honestly, everyone thinks about Chillicothe, Ohio. I'm right outside Chillicothe, Ohio.
No, you're not.
Well, I'm right across the line of literally Chillicothe, Ohio. My address is Chillicothe, Ohio, but it's not technically Chillicothe, Ohio. The next step is, what about the other like 50 some odd thousand? There's about almost 50 some odd thousand people outside of Chillicothe that still need help.
That are in the county. Another
project that we're working on being able to, I know there's the government database about sharing jobs. I know there's the one here locally in Chillicothe, but they're both not effective on getting as much information about jobs with people that can get hired here. I know from going on that 99 weeks.
What are you getting at this point?
My point is, on that 99 weeks, I had to bookmark 10 to 25 different websites, log into 10 to 25 different websites, and that's why I have like 1,000. That's why I have like almost 1,000 jobs that I applied for in that period of time, because I was applying for Chillicothe, Ross County, Ohio, and the nation and international wide. And I think it's 9 a.m. on Tuesday. Okay. 9 a.m. Tuesday.
For what?
For the meeting. I was talking to Mike Howard about it.
Oh, it's 9 a.m. We have some local people in the chat.
Yeah, I think that's well, yeah, anyway. I think I know who you are. Either I met you the other night, or you're actually the guy that used to be over I can't believe I can't say the word. I see it over the music thing. Mac O'Neill, or what was his name?
I don't know.
Unless you're the middle ground. That's what I was trying to say. The word went off my brain, but anyway, yeah. I realize I can connect all the dots together, because I think McNeil. That's what I was thinking. Mac McNeil. I think analytically when it comes to how to connect the different.
We got a lot of people in the chat.
There's a lot of people in the chat. Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Also, I work with Jack Everson as well, and I'm saying his name properly.
And who is he?
Who is the mayor of Chillicothe, and he connected a bunch of churches together to do an outreach to help the parks, because the city don't have any money.
So how are we connecting all of this with suicide and hurt?
How do you connect that to suicide with hurt? It involves groups of people, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw dots on a page. They're not going to be really big dots.
This is new. You drawing all these diagrams. Are you doing like a Glenn Beck thing? You're freaking me out here.
So anyway, each one of these dots, and I know you can't see it very well, each one of these dots represents a soul that needs to be saved, someone that is hungry, someone that is homeless, someone that needs a church, someone that needs a job, someone that needs a car, someone that wants to die, someone who's involved in drugs, someone is involved in prostitution, and this person wants to kill themselves. Right? So you see all these circles I made. And then you have Lone Ranger church guy right here in the middle. I realize one church may not necessarily be able to reach all these people. So you guys put some more dots in the middle, right?
Got to get some more people in the middle of the circle.
So now we have nine little dots in the middle of the page of churches. But what happens when you go to this church and this one has a food pantry, this one has an outreach to help PTSD students, this one has an outreach for drugs and alcohol, this one has an outreach for prostitution and sex, this one has, and the list goes on and on and on. What needs to happen is connect the different pieces.
All together.
Now, I know based on when I was at the pastoral meetings in Texas, because yes, I was working on an outreach in Texas when we had a revival, and I went to that, and I've seen, and I've been to the one down in Portsmouth, I've been to the one here in Chillicothe, I've seen where it works, and I've seen where everybody is bickering and arguing. I've also seen where it just becomes a breakfast club where they just come in and you sit and drink some coffee and eat some food. And then you go home. And I've seen that at the government level where everybody will present an agenda. They'll introduce themselves. Hello, my name is Jeremy Caverly, and we have kids that are hungry. Hi, my name is Miranda, and we have people that are homeless. And that's all that happens. They don't figure out any solutions, and then they go home.
And people are still suffering.
And people are still suffering, and people aren't happening. I understand that you're not going to have these 9 individual churches and these 9 people. Their doctrines are not going to line up, and when you start talking about doctrine, you're going to get in a fight.
So we have to throw that out.
Yeah.
It's just like the Democrats and Republicans work together, bipartisan, to help people. And the churches need to start doing that more.
And I realize if you're a church and you get paid positions, to get paid positions you have to have people show up to your church. So there's a lot of work to be able to get this to run effectively.
You gotta throw out the doctrine sometimes.
And to be able to, work at the most effective level, not only for your church, for your members of your church, because there's something known as volunteer burnout.
Oh, yes, and we've been there.
I have a adopted family who's adopted me who has had church burnout.
Oh, yeah.
They used to be pastoral leaders at a church, and they no longer will be pastoral leaders, not because they're over the age of 50, but because they need a break.
Mm-hmm.
So now they're attending the church so that nobody really knows. They don't know that. They shared this information with us. Most of the community don't even know it. Like most of the community don't know what my background is in, because I've had burnout too. So I understand how this works. And this is why the ministry has changed the way that we're doing. So we are actually connecting the pieces. Yes, we still do music. Yes, we can still speak. Yes, we still have puppets. Yes, I still do the programs on here. Yes, I may be stuck at home more, but I'm a phone call away, an email away, a Facebook away, a Twitter away, a knock on my door away. And I realize more people, more churches need to get on board on things like this, and more people need to be knocking. I've actually had a pastor come to my home, and I had another pastor call me who said, pray for me. One of them was in Washington, D.C. Another one was in Washington State. Another one was here in Chillicothe. Someone was in South Africa. Somebody right now is talking to me in a bunch of other different locations, and I continually talk and work and guide and direct. Now, like I said, a local ministry here who a leader is no longer involved has been asking me for 6 months to almost a year to go to these. But this is when I stepped back over the summer because I had the whole 4 weeks of got to get 4 classes in at 4 weeks at a time, then 4 weeks at another time of 4 weeks. So I didn't go to any meetings, to go to anything, to do anything at all. So nothing ever happened. I realized for me to be able to effectively do this, I'm going to have to get everyone's information.
But the point is,
look it over and try and get all the
but the point is,
dots.
The reason we've got to get people to work together and churches to work together, because we need to help these kids that are committing suicide. We need to help people who are out there and they've lost hope. We need to give them hope again. And we need to love each other and help each other. Because without the love and the support of my family and you, Jeremy, and other people, I wouldn't be here today.
You know, I have connections to, well, I did for a short period of while. Michael W. Smith, and I know, Mac, you know what I'm talking about. What's it called in Tennessee?
I don't know.
Isn't it Michael W. Smith who opened that concert hall in Tennessee?
I don't know what you're talking about.
The String Town or Shoe Town or whatever it's called.
Rocket Town?
Rocket Town, yes, Rocket Town. That's Michael W. Smith,
yeah.
right? At one point I was talking to him about, and it wasn't Michael W. Smith, I think it was someone that worked there.
Is it Rocket Town or
Rocket Town. I know that Middle Ground was here. I know.
I don't know if it is or not.
I know that there's the one that's.
So
in
what's
Cincinnati.
the point?
The point is, I'm seeing other different pieces of the puzzle and things happening, which leads me to this last part. Amendment 8, pitting religious groups against backers of church-state separation. As you guys realize, we talk about politics because I'm not ordained. I'm not going to be ordained. I don't marry people. I'm just a guy who talks about Jesus. And I talk about politics because everything affects people. You know, if it affects people, we need to talk about it.
Well, politics are definitely affecting us today. That's for sure. Yeah.
So there's this no aid provision about permitting state aid to religious institutions. And this is in Florida since 1885. I think it's really strange how all this works. For instance, how nonprofit 501c3 for churches didn't really exist until about 1950-ish. And the reason why churches got on board is because governments found out about financial fraud, which is why we don't take any money for what we do.
So basically, the church was stealing people's money.
There were churches that were being corrupt, so the government wanted to start taxing. And at one point, the argument was, and I talked to my grandmother in Texas, maybe it didn't happen in Ohio, but the argument was, do we tax the church or do we not tax the church? Mm-hmm. That would bring in a lot of money. And the churches that were involved in it being created said that they should be treated like other nonprofits and not have to have tax donations so they could bring more money in.
So what does this have to do with this article?
Well, this article is saying they're wanting to, fight and bicker and argue. And this stuff been going on since 1885. I'm looking at will protect religious freedom, remove a sentence tainted by the politics and prejudices of 19th century.
So
opponents say it's going to be an underhanded effort to expand school voucher programs and shift taxpayer funding from public-private schools.
So what are they trying to do? Shut up the church? Have the government wants more control of the churches, or what?
Well, here's what it says. It says here's what somebody says. Similar provisions in 30 other states and constitutions. Florida was named for Blaine, the Maine congressman who tried to unsuccessfully get a similar sentence inserted into the U.S. Constitution. It bans state aid to any church, sect, religious denomination, sectarian institution, and is viewed as a stricter requirement for church-state separation than found in the federal Constitution.
Okay.
Catholic dioceses and organizations are leading the push and provided more than $177,000 raised in the effort. So, honestly, I think at this point in time, yeah, we totally need to work on allowing religious freedom. That's one of the things Romney talked more about. Mm-hmm. I know we highlighted on how the Muslims had their religious freedom event connected to the Democrat Party, and it's listed in the Democrat Party. So the Republicans turned around and brought in Sikhs, which we know the Sikhs just recently had a terrorist attack on them up a little over by us, past Ohio. And the point I'm trying to get is we have to be able to accept the fact that there are people involved with church, and churches should be able to talk about politics. And I know tomorrow, and this is what we're ending on, I know the show's gone over, tomorrow there are churches all across the United States that will have pastors talking like I am. I'll say it again, I'm not a pastor. I don't have a 501c3. I don't get paid for what I'm doing. All this is free. On top of my college work, on top of my wife being sick, we take this opportunity to share our relationship with Jesus Christ with you. And this is what we see. Mm-hmm. Jesus Christ talked about Caesar. He talked about Rome. He talked about the synagogues and the temples, and he went into them. He went and talked to all the religious people, and they weren't just...
And Jesus even talked to the political people, too.
And he talked to political people, like I talk to political people. And that's documented in the historic Roman books, and it's also documented in the Bible. Mm-hmm. So if Jesus did it, why don't we do it? Because we don't have all the facts sometimes.
Because everybody needs to hear the gospel.
Or because we're being told we can't. So churches at this time, the only thing they normally are allowed to do, we're going to give you a voter registration for the religious voter registration. Here you go. Here are the facts about the people. And you go home. That's it. A lot of Christians don't know about a lot of facts.
Or there are pastors are just saying, pray for
your leaders. That's the verse that I hear the most. You know, God ordains the leaders that we put in.
Not saying, you know, taking a stand one way or another, just staying neutral.
Yeah.
And I hate to tell you, with the issues that are being brought up by our current administration and the administration that is possibly to come if Romney gets elected in, we need to be taking a stand one way or another. Mm-hmm. I mean, people got to wake up. We cannot, I've heard so many times, we cannot go against biblical truths.
Yeah. So here we go. Here's the Bible verse of the evening, and it's quite long. And it's another one of those history repeats itself. And as I get all this ready to go, I'm going to type the Bible verse in the chat first. And then I'm going to tell everybody what this is. And while I'm doing this, I want you to go ahead, as I said, get your Bibles out if you have one. And I want you to look this up. I want you to see what's going on. First of all, on a side note, was the leadership when Jesus was crucified, were they a Christian, born-again, believing leadership? Yes or no, Miranda?
No.
And what did Jesus say? He said, give to Caesar what is Caesar, and give to God what is God. So honestly, in some cases, you can vote for somebody who's not a Christian, which is... which I know that's a controversial statement. But Jesus even said, give to Caesar what is Caesar, and give, to God what is God. Now, if Caesar... But he also confronted Caesar as well, so he did both sides of it.
Yeah.
Back then, when Jesus was alive, it was more like a dictatorship. In other words, you're voted in and you stay in there like a kingdomship until you die and you pick an heir. Mm-hmm. There was no republic, which is the United States, not a democracy. We're a republic. There's a difference. So as we look at this verse, here it is. 1 Corinthians 10, 1 through 13. And I'm going to read this as we go. It says, warnings from Israel's history. So I have to share with you warnings from Israel's history. For I do not want you to be ignorant of the fact, brothers and sisters, that our ancestors were all under the cloud, that they all passed through the sea. They were all baptized into Moses in the cloud and the sea. They all ate the same spiritual food and drank the same spiritual drink. For they drank from the spiritual rock that accompanied them. And that rock was Christ. Nevertheless, God was not pleased with most of them. Their bodies were scattered in the wilderness. Now, many of you know about the whole 40 days...
40 days.
40 days. Well, we got 40 days with Jesus. We got 40 years in the wilderness. Where they weren't wanting to get along. They're bickering and arguing, and then all this stuff's happening. That's where that time period is. So here's the rest of this. Now they did these things, occurred as examples to keep us from setting our hearts on evil things as they did. Do not be idolaters. What is an idolater, Miranda?
Somebody that lusts after one.
You place something on a pedestal, right? Higher than God.
Well, and you
worship
it.
Yes, you place something on a pedestal. It could be your homework. It could be your college. It could be your wife. It could be your video games. It could be taking out the garbage. If it's something that's more important than reading the Word of God, if it's more important than trying to help someone, if you're a Christian in need, if it's more important than following the principles of Christ, then that is your idol in your life.
Yeah.
You don't have to make a golden calf. As someone has it written, the people sat down to drink and eat and got up to indulge in revelry, which is also found in Exodus 32:6 and Corinthians 10:7, which just keeps going on here. The people sat down and drank and indulged in revelry. We should not commit sexual immorality as some of them did. And in one day, 23,000 of them died. We should not test Christ. Some in your script say, test the Lord. Who did that? That's also a reference to when Job was talking about the test. I'm getting all these, see how my brain works? Connecting the pieces. As some of them, they were killed by snakes. Do not grumble, as some of them did. They were killed by destroying the angel. These things happened to them as examples and were written down as warnings for us, on whom the accumulation of the ages has come. So if you think you are standing firm, be careful that you do not fall. And here's the most famous verses we know. No temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind, and God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, He will provide a way out so you can endure it. And the problem is with America today is like we were listening to that Sunny whatever Delilah show, and this woman called in and said her husband was in an accident from a motorcycle, and he was in the hospital and nursing homes for 13 months. And this woman actually came out and said, I had friends and family members and acquaintances and people in the church and people at my job and just people all over me telling me to go leave that man because it's an inconvenience to you. He should have to pay for his bills himself. He should have to do this, that, and the other. Just get away from him. And at the end of the conversation, she said, when I made my covenant, which is her marriage vows, and she signed those papers with the pastor. And she did. I don't know if she had a pastor. And then she signed those papers again with the federal and state government, and she possibly changed her last name. She made a multifaceted covenant that she's going to abide by these rules and regulations known as marriage. And many people in marriages today follow the wayside and quit. And we just had our wedding anniversary show where I remarried Miranda on the show. It's over 2 hours. You can check it out online. This is the same covenant for American politics. Politicians are our employees. We pray for you, politicians. We give money to politicians. We give money to the church. We give money to people in need. We make covenants and assist people all the time. But the difference between helping someone who is poor and homeless, like when I wasn't expected to give the people money back. When I stayed at Godtel and the Salvation Army and all the other people in the churches, they didn't say, oh yeah, here's your bill, Jeremy, of $50,000 for the last 18 years that we were on food stamps and Medicare. No. You don't do that. But politicians, it's different. We elect these people. We make decisions on what they do. The choices they make are supposed to represent what we want. And if they're not doing what we want, we have a free will and choice right to decide who stays and goes. This goes way beyond if Mitt Romney is a Mormon or if Obama is a socialist or if he's a Marxist or whatever. This goes beyond all that crazy talk. Let's look at the facts. We got people that are poor. We got people on food stamps. We got people out of work. We have problems overseas with our allies and with these groups of countries and groups of individual radical people, whether it's a faith or not. We got foreign policy issues. We got domestic issues.
We got people losing hope and
we got
killing
people
themselves.
losing hope, and they don't have any more change. You know the change that has happened is the change of having more of a different kind of leadership. If a leader is not able to fulfill their promises, they need to be humble enough to admit that and step down. I'll give good point case. I was the co-chair and chairman of the college Republicans. I wasn't getting anyone in, My wife got sick, I stepped down. No more college Republicans at OUC. My wife got more sick, didn't have time to go to meetings. I stepped down from vice president of OUC Student Senate to take care of my wife. I'm responsible enough for my actions to know when I'm stretched too thin to really make a difference for anybody. I know what burnout is. Doesn't mean I'm a bad person. I had a choice. If you've ever watched the Coast Guard movie, The Guardian, Kevin Costner's in a position where he's a chief of the Coast Guard in Alaska. And the Coast Guard is always paging him and calling him and asking him to do all this kind of stuff. And here's his wife wanting a family, wanting to have a husband around. And he's too busy going to save everyone else, and he can't even save his own marriage. And what happens? They get a divorce. If you stretch yourself too far, you're going to end up in a divorce. And that's what we need in our government. We need a divorce from leaders that aren't doing their job. I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. If I see the facts of what you do, I see how things are working. If you're not able to line up with budgets and plans and working with people, then you got to go. I'm not going to tell you to vote for Obama or Mitt Romney. I'm telling you to vote for people that will actually get something to help everyone. That means you got to help Republicans, you got to help Democrats, and oh yeah, those wonderful people in the middle here in Ohio called independents. And right now, how many people were listed for president and vice president this year on that election board? We had Republicans, Democrats, Constitution, Green Party, Socialist Party, Nonpartisan Party, and I think there was one more. There were 6 or 7.
Did you put the green?
There was a green. There's 6 or 7 different parties and people that you can vote for. And then you got all that other stuff. Quit worrying about this division, about class warfare. Quit worrying about all this stuff of hatred, about who's a racist and prejudiced. You know what you should do in those situations? What I did back in Texas. When Mr. Burt, when that African American was dragged in Jasper, that was 30 miles from my house. Farrakhan was talking, the Black Panther was talking, the KKK was talking, the unions were talking, the Democrats were talking, Republicans were talking, and I told them all that same thing back then, as I'm saying now. Forgive one another. Stop dividing your fellow man. Work hand in hand with them. That person deserves a job just as much as you do. Quit worrying about wanting an extra pay raise. We are in a crisis right now. We don't need pay raises. We need more jobs for people. It's going to have to be a compromise. In some cases, some people do need pay raises. And others, they don't. These are things that need to not be so complex to solve. If I understand it, why can't we understand it? So Miranda, I give you the final thoughts.
I'm good.
Miranda says she's good.
I think you've said it all.
Miranda says I've said it all this evening. That's first. So this has been JMC Live tonight. The debate. Just letting you know what happened in the area. Just letting you know how things should work as a body of Christ. Now, if you're not a Christian, everything I said, you can throw in the trash. You can do your class warfare. You can do your smear ads. You can say this person's a racist and this person's pregnant. You can keep doing all these tactics. Get people angry. Get people frustrated. And keep dividing Americans. But if you're a Christian and you call yourself a Republican or Democrat, I'm calling you out tonight. To be a Christian. To vote. And work with a Republican and Democrat to fix this country. Because some of you that are running for office, some of you that are currently in office that I've been involved with, you got to work together to fix this. We're not always going to be just one party. It doesn't say it says the United States. That's where the division stops. It's your state, and you're a city and a county, and you're an individual. I get that. And we have free will. But on top of all these facets of breaking down, there's one common goal that we got to get to, and it is fixing America for American people. This is not a speech. This is a fundamentalistic ideology that has to happen, that we need to do today. So thank you for tonight. God bless, and we'll see you next week.